Why buying a house feels impossible. Remember when your parents told you stories about buying their first house? How they saved up for a few years, put down a reasonable down payment, and boom, they were homeowners in their late 20s. Yeah, that's not how it works anymore. If you're feeling like homeownership is slipping further and further out of reach, you're not alone. Millions of Americans are stuck in what feels like an impossible situation, watching home prices soar while their wages barely keep pace with inflation. The dream of owning a home, once a cornerstone of the American dream, now feels more like a fantasy for an entire generation. So what happened? Why does buying a house feel impossible right now? Let's break down the perfect storm of factors that turned home ownership from an achievable milestone into what feels like winning the lottery. The price explosion. Let's start with the most obvious problem. Home prices have absolutely skyrocketed. The median home price in the United States has more than doubled in the past 20 years. In many cities, it's tripled or even quadrupled. Back in 2000, the median home price was around $170,000. Today, it's hovering around $420,000 to $430,000 nationally. But here's where it gets really wild. In cities like San Francisco, Seattle, Austin, and Boston, median prices are well over $700,000. In some neighborhoods, we're talking over $1 million for a basic 3-bedroom house. Now, you might say, well, wages have gone up too, right? Not nearly enough. While home prices doubled, median household income only increased by about 25 to 30% over the same period. The math just doesn't work anymore. To put this in perspective, in the 1970s, the typical home cost about 2.5 times the median household income. Today, it's closer to 6 times, and in expensive metro areas, it's often 10 times or more. This isn't just difficult, it's historically unprecedented. The down payment trap. Even if you could afford the monthly mortgage payment, there's another massive barrier: the down payment. The traditional advice is to put down 20% to avoid private mortgage insurance and get better interest rates. On a $400,000 house, that's $80,000. $80,000. For the average American, saving maybe $300 to $500 a month after expenses, that would take 13 to 22 years to save, and that's assuming home prices don't go up during that time, which they definitely will. You're literally chasing a moving target that's accelerating away from you. Sure, there are programs that let you put down less, 3%, 5%, even 0 for certain qualified buyers. But lower down payments mean higher monthly payments, mortgage insurance, and you're competing with buyers who can put down more, which brings us to our next problem. The housing market has become a bidding war where regular families are competing against investors, cash buyers, and corporations buying up single-family homes. In 2021 and 2022, we saw stories of people offering $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 over asking price just to get their offer accepted. How is a regular first-time buyer supposed to compete with that? Now let's talk about interest rates, because this is where things got even worse recently. From 2008 to 2021, we had historically low interest rates, hovering around 3 to 4%. But starting in 2022, the Federal Reserve aggressively raised rates to combat inflation, and mortgage rates shot up to 7 to 8%. That's the highest they've been in over 2 decades. Here's what that means in real money. On a $400,000 home with a 20% down payment, at a 3.5% interest rate, your monthly payment would be about $1,400. At 7%, that same house costs you about $2,100 a month. That's an extra $700 every single month, or $8,400 a year. So not only are home prices way higher than they were 5 or 10 years ago, but the cost of borrowing money to buy that home has nearly doubled. You're getting hit from both sides. And here's the cruel twist. When interest rates were low and borrowing was cheap, home prices were surging because everyone was buying. Now that interest rates are high, prices have cooled a bit in some markets, but borrowing is so expensive that you still can't afford to buy. You're stuck either way. The supply shortage. Underlying all of this is a fundamental problem. We don't have enough houses. The United States is short somewhere between 3 to 7 million homes, depending on whose estimate you believe. We simply have not built enough housing to keep up with population growth and household formation. Why? There are a bunch of reasons. After the 2008 housing crisis, construction ground to a halt. Many builders went out of business, and the industry took years to recover. We lost a huge chunk of construction workers during that period, and we never fully rebuilt that workforce. Then there's zoning. Many cities and towns have strict zoning laws that make it difficult or impossible to build new housing, especially multifamily housing. Neighborhoods fight against new development, worried about property values or neighborhood character. The result is artificial scarcity that drives prices up. Materials costs have also skyrocketed, especially lumber. Building a house is significantly more expensive now than it was just 5 years ago, which means builders focus on high-end homes, where the profit margins are better. There's not much incentive to build starter homes, which is exactly what first-time buyers need. Corporate buyers and investors. Here's something that's making people especially angry. Wall Street discovered housing. After 2008, large investment firms and private equity companies started buying up single-family homes by the thousands. Companies like Invitation Homes, American Homes for Rent, and others now own hundreds of thousands of houses across the country. They're competing with regular families, but they have billions of dollars in capital and can make all-cash offers above asking price. These companies aren't buying homes to live in them, they're buying them to rent out, treating housing as a financial asset rather than a place where people build their lives. This removes inventory from the market and drives prices even higher. Short-term rentals like Airbnb have also converted housing stock away from long-term residents. In tourist-heavy cities, entire neighborhoods have been transformed into de facto hotels, pricing out locals. The housing market has been financialized in a way that fundamentally changes who it serves, not families looking for homes, but investors looking for returns. Conclusion. So here we are. Home prices are at all-time highs, wages haven't kept pace, interest rates are elevated, down payments require years of saving, supply is constrained, and you're competing with corporations and investors. It's not your fault that buying a house feels impossible. The system is genuinely broken right now. The rules of the game have changed dramatically in the past 20 years, and an entire generation is being priced out of home ownership. There are no easy solutions. We need more housing construction, zoning reform, policies that limit corporate ownership of single-family homes, and wages that actually keep up with the cost of living. None of that happens overnight. In the meantime, if you're struggling with this, know that you're not alone. Millions of Americans are in the exact same boat, working hard and playing by the rules, but finding that the American dream has moved further away than ever before. The question now is whether we're going to accept this as the new normal or whether we're going to demand the kind of changes that make homeownership achievable again. Because a society where an entire generation is locked out of building wealth through homeownership, that's not sustainable for anyone.